CES is the place to be when it comes to the newest and hottest technology out there. And that includes tech for the food industry too, from barista robots to food vending machines. And we're going to cover it all on FI Spotlight today. Susan Choi here from the Food Institute, and I'm so excited to be here with a great friend of FI, Brian 𝗂𝗂𝘁. He is Senior Director of Innovation for the Consumer Technology Association, which puts out CES every year. Brian, welcome to the show once again. Thanks for joining me.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me, Susan. Happy to be here.
Always happy to have you here. Okay, so CES 2025, super excited for this, happening in January in Las Vegas. Last year, the theme was all on, with a focus on AI technology. What is the theme for this year, and how does it relate, if at all, to the theme last year?
Of course. So last year was all on. This year it's dive in. And it really is all about diving in deeper into the technology trends that we've come to be quite familiar with at CES over the years, but especially AI will remain a major trend this year. And we're going to be just diving in deeper to seeing how the hardware, the software, and all the various applications of that technology are really helping transform not just the consumer experience, but the enterprise and industrial experience as well. It really is about going in and diving in deeper.
I went to CES 2024. It was my first time. I had a blast. The first thing I noticed was just how big the show is. It really dominates Las Vegas. You guys are in all of the convention center, and you span over multiple hotels. It was so fun to just hop from one venue to another, seeing all the exhibitors. One thing I remember you mentioning to me in earlier conversations is that CES is going to be differently. There's going to be of a different structure this year. You guys have kind of moved around categories. There's going to be it's going to be a different way of format and layout this year. Can you talk more about that?
Yeah, of course. And so I think when you look at CES, as you mentioned, it spans, last year it was around over 2 million net square feet of a show floor footprint. And that spans across the Las Vegas Convention Center. It spans across the Venetian Expo and the Venetian, as well as you have the C Space campus over at the Aria, amongst other hotels that are being utilized for the event. And so when you think about how we structure it, one of the biggest shifts that's happening this year is digital health historically has been over in North Hall of the Las Vegas Convention Center. This year, it's moving over to the Venetian Expo alongside smart home, food tech, sleep technology, wearable technology, fitness, and sports. All of that is going to be co-located together at the Venetian Expo. And this really, from a narrative standpoint, makes a ton of sense, because when you think about it, digital health is about healthier living. And then when you look at food tech, you look at fitness and wearables, that's about better living. And then combine that with there will be a degree of biotech and other sort of developments there that's about longer living. All of this tells you a story that the Venetian this year is about longevity, longer, better, healthier living, and really about what does tomorrow look like for consumers and patients alike.
Food tech's certainly a part of that lifestyle category, as you mentioned. And we are the Food Institute, so we are definitely interested in specifically the food tech category. Please share with us, Brian, from what you know, can you share with us any exhibitors that seem, really exciting, that are going to be, at this year's show in regards to, the food category?
Yeah, of course. And so when we look at it, we tend to talk about it this way when we go and get food. And I think I've said this before on this program, but you do see innovation from farm to table at CES. And that is, again, going to be the story at CES 2025. So starting actually kind of on the ag side, we do a really good job at our show of bringing in a lot of the major industrial agricultural companies. So your John Deere's and your Kubotas will be back over actually at the Convention Center for West Hall. A lot of that is logistically, those are massive vehicles, so it requires an exhibit space that can accommodate them. But then when you move off out of the farm, closer to the table, that's where you're over at the Venetian, really looking at a variety of different companies. So we're going to see how AI is helping to shape and impact a lot of devices in the cooking space. So a company like Brisket will be back showcasing AI grills and how that informs just better cooking. There's an energy efficiency story that pairs well with that when you think about it at the end of the day, right? Which is, if you have more efficient use of the technology powering and heating your food, you're going to be using less power in the long run. So that's one of those. You'll see some more automation in the idea of rich tech robotics, and 𝗏𝗏 𝗏𝗏 will be showcasing a lot of the future of robotic baristas. But then you even get into, well, how is AI helping make food decisions, as well as how is technology really shaping what we're eating and engaging with from a food standpoint? So the first part of that pathway is a company like 𝗩𝗶𝗱𝗲, who does an AI food scanner. And the whole idea is this is kind of the blending of digital health and food tech, which is it has an AI vision product on board, which can assess the caloric intake and the nutrient breakdown of most of the food that you're consuming. It helps reduce waste to a degree, but it also helps healthier outcomes with eating. That's one pathway. And then the others is you really get into this idea of something like 𝗟𝗏𝘁, which is a company that focuses very heavily on the idea of like alternative dairy products, especially in the frozen treat market. Or even someone like Echo Water will be at the show floor, which they're focusing on, well, how do you enhance hydration? Essentially, how do you improve water with better antioxidants that can help health at the cellular level and increase longevity? So you even have food tech really focusing now on this idea of, well, yeah, how do we work with digital health and wearables and all this other data and insights and decision-making capabilities that consumers have to really help improve their outcomes. So you're not just enjoying what you eat more, but you feel better and you're benefiting really from what you're eating and drinking.
Really interesting to hear what you're talking about. Wellness, again, that's popping up. Still a really big category with consumers, finding ways, convenient ways to better their health. It's going to be really interesting to see at the show. Finally, want to ask you, Brian, what are you personally most excited about CES 2025?
Oh my gosh. That is like, I think I may have said this in the past on these interviews. I have 4 cats, and this is like asking me which is my favorite. It's impossible to answer. But I think for me, you know, AI, digital health, and food are all extremely exciting. I'm excited to see them. But when I look at, I'll say 2 things that I'm quite excited about. One is we have a new conference track and really sort of featured technology category this year, which is the energy transition. We've always had a lot around sustainability on the show floor, but this year it's really focusing on, we have AI, we have data centers that take a lot of energy to power a lot of the technologies that we enjoy and have come to rely on and coexist with over the years. We're going to see conference tracks as well as solutions that are focusing on, well, how do we do all of this with shifting while also making sure that we meet sustainability and energy and carbon emission goal reductions from international agreements, or from a lot of companies have private commitments to going to net zero renewables. And if energy transition sounds like a new word, I do want to say, or a new phrase, it's not. We've lived as a global society through 2 previously. We've had the transition from firewood to coal, then coal to fossil fuels. Now we're in the 3rd one, which is how do we get from fossil fuels to those net zero carbon resources? So I'm really excited to see how those conversations and what those innovations unfold with, because that will set the tone of just how sustainable and energy efficient are we. That's the first one. And then I'll quickly say that 𝗟𝗏𝗁, which is our startup pavilion, also found in the Venetian Expo. I love to spend a lot of time there because when you think about it, this is almost like the garage of CES, right? The founders myth of technology, where does innovation start? It starts at that startup level where you have companies in the 𝗟𝗏𝗁 from not just the United States, but across the world, showcasing really how innovation is here to help really put humans at the forefront. How do we innovate to improve human life?
Wow, it sounds great. I can't wait to be in the middle of it all once again next year, 2025, just around the corner. Senior Director of Innovation for the Consumer Technology Association, Brian 𝗂𝗏. Brian, thanks again for coming on to the show.
Of course, thank you so much for having me, Susan. I'm anytime.
And as always, for more great content, you can always check out this playlist. For the Food Institute, I'm Susan Choi. Take care.